Hello all and welcome back to Tier 1, Round 1. We're here for WHF for the opening race of the season as Gordon's gone quickest here with a 28.6 as all the drivers are getting their times in now. Apologies for the late start. We've had a couple of technical issues in the background. But let us try and get some of the people into the lobby. There's still drivers having some issues in joining the lobby. But several drivers having issues, but we'll follow Cookie on board here as we fly around the Melbourne circuit. As Womax is joined back in again. Meanwhile, Cookie may got a little bit of a tow from his teammate Mallard as we come into a busy final sector. And Mallard getting out of the way of Cookie as he's flying around. Entering the final sector here. And round the final corner, tricky traction zone as we come up to the line. Cookie going to set a 27.1, 1.5 seconds clear of the next driver. That is some margin. As hopefully we can get AMS Apple in, who had a power cut. But Cookie has already laid the gauntlet. Kevin Kell up into P3 with a 28.9. Ty Clear Tier 2 champion with a 29.9. Seth, new driver this season, with a 30.2. Jimmy Dwyer with a respectable 30.6. Rio Harris struggling out there with a 32.2. As I'm guessing that there's some track evolution happening out there. As we've got Hemi Dimes, the driver to win the finale last season in the Ferrari. We'll see what Hemi can do on this flyer, as he had to have a little second. D Summers in chat says Cookie needs moving up. He's been sandbagging. Ledgeman, no, the YouTube stream is not working. Basically, Restream every once in a while will decide to absolutely screw itself, and it did that today. So we had to swap over, unfortunately. But the YouTube stream will have to wait to next week maybe, because it didn't start correctly today, unfortunately. But anyway, young Hemi Dimes on a flyer as he exits turn 10, as AMS Apple has joined. Yeah, D Summers, Restream normally works quite well, but there's some days like today where on Twitch it gives you a black screen, whereas on YouTube it works fine, but just a black screen for whatever reason. What is wrong with their encoder, I don't know. But anyway, Hemi now on a flyer. Ollie J up to a 27.4, just 3/10 shy of Cookie. The Season 3 champion, close to our 4-time champion. As Cookie currently leads the field as Hemi moved up to P3, but big gaps currently here. As we've got Ty Clear, Tier 2 champion last season, moves up to Tier 1, joins JG, aka Gordon24, at Aston Martin. And Ty now, what can he do? As he's moved up to Tier 1. Very conservative on entry to turn 9. And thankfully AMS Apple's in, so we've now got our full grid here for Tier 1, lovely to see. But a couple of debutants. We have Lewis 44 Fan, which is also known as Liam. Liam was a driver a couple seasons ago for us and for WHF and returning. Meanwhile, Nikki Laura is as Cookie does a 25.8. That's a massive improvement by the Red Bull. And I think Cookie's going to be laying the gauntlet for most drivers out there as Ty moves up to P4. As the McLaren exit in the box. What was happening there? That might have been Thori. Not quite sure what happened to Thori there. What is going on with Thori? He's really struggling here. Not quite sure what's happening with Thorsten. But, oh, what's going on? Oh, and he's kind of got in the way of the Aston Martin there, but Thorsten looks like he's having some sort of issue. I'm not quite sure what it is. Oh, he's out on the soft tyres. That's what his issue is. He's out on the complete wrong tyres at the wrong time. As he's unfortunately getting in the way. A couple of drivers laps simply just he has no grip to do anything to get out of the way. Jimmy Dwyer also debating going the soft, but it is not soft weather. So we've seen this yesterday as Thorsten drifts his way through through the middle section as Hitman up to P2 with a 25.9. Beautiful lap there from Hitman, just a tenth shy of Cookie. As Rio Harris moves up to P3 with a 27.0. As Thorsten again really struggling here, gets out of the way of the Williams on a lap. As Berlin currently P7. But yeah, Thorsten's gone too early. What I was going to say is we've seen this yesterday in China where the track looked to be dry, but it was in fact not dry. And Thorsten's seeing it at the moment. It looks dry, but it actually isn't. But he's going to try a lap anyway here, but I don't know why he's struggling so much on those tyres. As Liam up to a 26.1. Brilliant lap there from Liam as he loses the rear as well here. I'm actually going to get the tyre graphic up because it might be necessary as we progress on, Ollie. Thinking about the softs, but honestly it doesn't look like the softs are going to be the quickest out there. As Mallard up to P3, and is Red Bull dominance going to bore fans here in Tier 1 as it's currently a Red Bull 1-3, and lovely laps there from the Red Bull drivers as Gordon now on a flyer, but it does say he's 6 seconds down, but it looks like he's pushing, so I'm not quite sure about that. But thank you for the bit, Zampa, and also thank you for helping me get signed in. There was a bit of an issue with Restream, so I had to sign into the Twitch later on. As Gordon still on a flyer here, exits the middle sector, purple middle sector for Gordon. Cookie looks like he has selected the soft tyres. We'll see whether or not he does go for that. Meanwhile, we also have Womax yet to set a lap, along with both V-Carbs, Franz Hermann and Apple, yet to set laps here in the session so far. So Apple now out on his outlap. Hopefully AMS Apple can be one of the challengers here today. As Gordon now rounding the final corner and foot to the floor. And DRS, is it open? I don't think DRS is open yet, but he's dumped the battery in. That's a 25.1 for Gordon. We're going to see track evolution keep building and building throughout the session here, it seems. As Thorsten now a 3-second improvement. He's still at a 28.3, so the inters are still quicker at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on Thorsten. What are his sector times saying? Although I do think he's on a cool lap now. But maybe by the end of the session, the softs could be the quicker tyre, but as it stands, they're definitely not. Meanwhile, Seth in the Williams goes to P2, and it would be great to see one of the debutants get up there. Meanwhile, we've got AMS Apple out on the inters. Let's see how the AMS driver can navigate the middle sector here in Melbourne. Meanwhile, we're yet to see Womax and Franz Hermann get a decent lap time on the board, even a representative lap time on the board at all. Meanwhile, TJ down with a 34.2. He also needs to get a big improvement. TJ finished P3 last season in Tier 2. Another one of the Tier 2 drivers moving up as AMS Apple now on an absolute flyer through the middle sector. But as it stands now, DRS enabled. Is that your indicator that it's time to come in? Is Apple going to continue on, or is he going to come in the pit lane? We will see what he tries. Apple now, is he going to come into the pit lane? No, he's going to stay out and complete this lap time, which could potentially leave him at risk, as in he might not get another run in here. As Apple up to the line, it's a 24.1, quickest lap time of the day, a second clear of Gordon. But with the DRS now enabled, are we going to see the lap times progressively get quicker here as everyone now onto soft tyres? It seems like softs could be the quicker tyre. We yet to see the softs go quicker yet. As Ollie Bean puts the sound alert in the chat, but I forgot to change the sound alerts. I wish there was an easier way of doing this, but there we go now. The sound alert should work now. But there you have it. And then let's open that. Anyway, who do we have out on a lap? Franz Herrmann and Womack on a lap. The Cyber driver yet to settle up.
Box. Keep it staying out. No, stay out.
And I will say with Womack now setting this lap, he does a 22.4, quickest lap time of the day.
Negative, so staying out.
But this is a risk for Womack. I know he's gone quickest now in that lovely new Cyber livery, but does he have enough fuel to do another lap here is the question. As Ty Clear, Tier 2 champion last season, does a 22.2. Are we going to see everyone progressively improve here? And I think it might be a case of whoever is the last driver across the line will go quickest, as Berlin on a lap now as well. TJ on a lap as Franz Herrmann, purple middle sector for the Dutch driver, as he's on a flyer. As Rio Haas does a 20.5, massive improvement here, as Franz Herrmann now rounding the final corner. And I think it really will come down to whoever starts their lap last will be quickest, as Franz Herrmann goes to P2, just 4 thousandths behind Rio Haas. As Ty Clear now. And Womack's coming in. That's an opportunity missed for Womack. I don't think he's going to improve. He's not going to have enough time to go for another lap here. Meanwhile, Ty needs to recharge the battery, but he's out of fuel. So this is going to be Ty's final run in this qualifying session. Can Ty improve by enough to give him enough of a buffer? We will see as Ty up to the line improves to a 20.6. But the thing is, the track's getting quicker and quicker as... was that... I'm not quite sure who jumped up there. It might have been Jimmy Dwyer. But Liam now rounding the final corner, currently P12, but the track is going to keep getting it quicker and quicker as Liam goes up to P4. But this really comes down to whoever leaves their lap latest will be quickest, in my opinion, as Cookie going to back out of this lap. He was improving, but he wants to wait until the track is at its greenest, as TJ actually has damage, front wing missing on that Mercedes. And TJ, that's his qualifying donor. The former Tier 2 contender last season is going to start from the back this race.
I am stupid.
As Kevin now on a flyer. And Thori might be the next driver around to complete a lap, as the McLaren driver in behind the Cyber. Rio Haas currently holds on to the lead, as Thori losing the rear a bit through the final sector. But the track evolution is surely going to be massive, as you see. Kevin Kell improves by a second and a half over Rio Haas, as the checkered flag now has fallen. This is where all the times matter, as Jimmy Dwyer improves to P6, Thori to P2. Who's next across the line? Ty Clear not improving. Liam now round the final corner. Surprised he was not pushing on this lap. The track is going to get quicker, as who is next around? It could be Hitman. No, it's going to be Nicky on debut in the Alpine. What can Nicky do on his debut? Currently 19th in the session, but as he comes up to the line now on these soft tires, can he improve by a lot? He does improve by a lot. It's an 18.4, quickest time out there. Who else is out in a flyer? Seth goes quickest with a 17.4. Gordon rounding the final corner. We've got a Mercedes up to the line of Rio Haas with a 17.4 goes quickest. Gordon next across the line up to P3. We've got both Ferraris as Stephen Beecham goes P4. Cookie coming up to the line. I think that's Mallard to P17 as Young Himi Dimes goes quickest. Next is Cookie up the line. He goes quickest with a 16.4. Ollie will be last across the line, but invalidates. So Cookie on pole ahead of Himi Dimes. Next it's Rio Harris, followed by Seth, Gordon, Stephen Beecham from Tier 2, promoted to this season up to P6. You love to see it. Brilliant qualifying there from the Ferrari drivers. They were both P18 and 19 before they got that final run in. It was so crucial they got that run in, but Cookie will start from pole, as we always see, as Seth on his debut into P4, Nicky on debut into P7, Franz Hermann P10, Berlin P11, as AMS Apple down in P16 didn't get a good final run, and neither did Mallard, Hitman, Ollie or TJ. All their interlaps would be taken. Womax just got the timing wrong on his lap, but a very dramatic qualifying session there. But the drivers should be readying up soon, and I'll let them know when to ready up for. But what are the predictions? Ollie Bean says Kevin will pull some mental strat like always and end up on the podium. Liam says you shouldn't have gone out that early. Zampa, thank you for the 1 bit. As the drivers should be getting ready for 29 laps around the Melbourne circuit here in Australia. As Zampa in the chat says, Gordon podium he predicts. And could happen. Gordon had a decent qualifying there, but a very topsy-turvy qualifying. We could see a lot of drama here on in this one. As Liam in the chat says, not gonna lie, a 2-stop should be the main strat. I have seen a lot of people do different strategies in Australia. 2 stops, 1 stops. I'm actually not quite sure which the quickest strategy is. It really just depends on what you can make work for you. It really could be a 2-stop or it could be a 1-stop. I'll have to wait and see what the drivers come up with. But the drivers should be readying up in 1 minute's time, so make sure to get all your predictions in. Who's going to win? Currently, Cookie starts on pole by 6/10. He picks up from where he left off. The 5-time WHF champion, looking to make it a 6th championship this season here. As we've got 12 rounds here for Tier 1. Make sure to follow if you haven't yet as we get ready for the 5 red lights on very, very shortly. Also, make sure to get yourself a drink and be prepared for absolute cinema, absolute carnage here at the start of the season. A couple drivers out of place due to that wet transition to dry in the wet, as Cookie says, Cookie by a mile, Stephen for a podium. I would honestly love to see Stephen Beecham on the podium. Moved up from Tier 2 last season, finished P2 in the championship, ended Abu Dhabi, the final race of the season, picking up his first win in Tier 2. And Stephen, if he picked up a Tier 1 podium, I think he would be absolutely ecstatic with that. Brilliant start for the season for him. As Rio, you can ready up if you're listening. It is now 8:34, so all the drivers can ready up. Hopefully everyone's got their strategies, and we'll see what the drivers can do. Tier 1 here around Australia here, 29 laps. A couple drivers debating, is it a 1-stop or a 2-stop? We'll have to see what they come up with as we hear the chimes counting down for the start, as for some reason my that knocked off there. But we will get ready now for the 5 red lights on here in Australia, as Cookie will lead the field away, as Cookie down into turn 1 gets a good start, as Hemi unable to get ahead, as Rio side by side with Seth. Is there any carnage in the back? I think we've all survived relatively, as Mallard appears to have gone down, as someone is absolutely flying on top of another car. Not quite sure what's happened there, as Gordon getting ahead of Seth here, and Seth around the Irishman down the order as he has had a spin, as Thorey up to P10, but Seth around, so is Mallard, as Seth trying to recover as there seemed to be a crunch of the wall, and that's Franz Hermann around. Franz Hermann around in the middle sector, and he's facing the wrong way. And not the ideal start for Franz there. As Berlin now side by side, he goes with Womax, and Nicky is well involved as MS Apple trying to get involved here. We're side by side. So many cars here. We're almost 5 abreast as Berlin leaves the track. Oh, big crunch and contact with MS Apple. And I don't know how MS Apple's avoided damage. I think Nicky's got damage as Thorey now battling with Ty Clear up to P7. But an insane start. It's been Seth's recovered to P12 as he battles side by side with MS Apple as they go side by side through this final sector, and Seth keeps it ahead of Apple here as Nicky on the rear of Ollie. Ollie up to P10 now. Brilliant start for Ollie as Cookie sets the fastest lap in the Mercedes. Oh, TJ around at the final corner, and TJ down the order there as he looks to rejoin the racing line. Probably Mallard has to take avoiding action here. It's been a very chaotic start here in Tier 1 as Seth now on the outside of Nicky. Nicky carrying some damage on that left end plate, and Seth trying to find a way around the outside. Opened up the steering though, that's allowed MS Apple around the outside as he tries to poke a nose in. As Seth able to keep ahead now. Nicky maybe struggling with that damage here as we'll see what the driver's tyres are. It's a mixed set. Top half going for medium, bottom half going for hards. As Seth now on the rear of Nicky as Hemi Dimes now still has DRS from Cookie as Seth gonna get through, but Apple on the inside of Seth as well. Could be a beautiful move here, and Apple side by side he goes with 7. A beautiful move through the middle chicane there from AMS Apple as Liam gets out of Thorey. Womax ahead of Nicky as well. Nicky struggling with that damage as he tries to keep it around the outside of the Cyber driver. Bit of contact, wheel banging. We go, but lovely driving from all the drivers out there, able to keep it clean despite how close they are together. Hemi Dimes setting the fastest lap, and Hemi Dimes in the Ferrari looking to be the biggest challenger here as Kevin Kell gets out of Stephen Beecham. Ty Clear, his former Ferrari teammate last season, he's battling with now as they all have moved up to Tier 1 as Rio Harris trying to reclaim DRS from Hemi Dimes. But Hemi having a beautiful race here on home turf. The Australian driver on his home Grand Prix staying with the 5-time champion. Could Hemi be looking at his first championship here? I know it's early to say, but currently keeping pace with Cookie as we are on lap 3. DRS enabled for Hemi Dimes. Rio trying to reclaim DRS as Gordon now in behind as Nicky picks up a time penalty. Ty Clear going to get through on Stephen Beecham. Is Liam going to even try and get involved on Stephen as well here? As Rio got a 3-second time penalty as Hemi on the rear of Cookie, unable to get a move on this lap, but Rio going to struggle with that 3-second time penalty. His first race, I believe, on no line is AMS Apple into the rear of Thorey. Possibly thought the McLaren just braking earlier than he expected, and Apple had to get heavy on the brakes there to avoid damage. I'm not quite sure. AMS Apple's already been in the wars in this race and has avoided damage so far, at least visual damage that is, as
hello there.
We head on. Thank you for the follow, Sluscarns. Welcome into their stream. Sluscarns last time I'd qualified on pole in Tier 2, as we say Apple definitely picking up a warning through Turn 1 as he's on the rear of Thorey now and may look for a move down into Turn 3. Late send from the V-Carb as he gets it turned in. And a lovely move from Apple there. Meanwhile, Rio Harris back inside DRS range from Hemi Dimes and Cookie here. But does he have that rear wing open? Is Hemi now gonna take the lead of the race potentially on his home Grand Prix as he goes round the outside of Cookie before the chicane, and the Ferrari driver takes the lead of the race on home soil. This is a prideful moment for Hemi Dimes, and what a strong season Hemi Dimes could have here as Lewis gets ahead of Stephen Beecham. A large amount of traffic here in the midfield as Stephen defending from Ollie round the outside of Stephen Beecham, and a lovely move if the McLaren can make it stick, and he does. An Apple trying to poke his nose through as he goes round the outside of Stephen, but unable to find a way through. United Thorey for company, side by side they go, and Thorey, big contact and loses the rear, and Thorey down the order. And heartbreak for Thori there. As a bit of a touch of the wheels with him and AMS Apple. And spins at the penultimate corner. As Mallard gets ahead of Thori now. Following Thori rejoining the circuit. Seth now back on the rears. There's a yellow flag out. It might be Berlin. Berlin may have had an issue there. As we head on here on lap 5. Cookie on the rear of Hemi Dimes as Gordon keeping Rio Harris, Keen Rio, the one of the drivers to get a pen along with Nick, as Gordon now on the rear of Rio Harris, and Gordon surely going to get ahead into P3, and the Aston Martin driver does just that, as Gordon now going to try and catch Cookie and Hemi Dimes as Rio definitely picks up another warning as Apple getting round the outside of Stephen Beecham, who as Hitman gets through on WOMX as well. This has been so competitive here at the start. Moves being made everywhere as Liam now on the inside of Ty Clear. There's so many moves happening per lap. It's difficult to keep an eye on as losing the rear was Liam there as Ty gets through on the Haas driver as another switchback from Liam on the cards here. If he can try and work his way through as Ollie watching this battle. Big spin and contact, and they're both around at the final corner as Stephen Beecham coming into the pit lane, but big contact there between Liam and Ty Clear. I think Liam lost the rear and tagged the rear of Ty Clear there, and both of them almost spinning into the pit lane as Ollie now on the rear of AMS Apple. He's up to P6 as Liam and Nicky swap positions. I think it was Liam and Ty who had the contact there as side by side go Liam and Jimmy Dwyer. Jimmy Dwyer having a strong race on his first race this season as someone, I think, had a brush of the wall. I heard some contact with the wall there, but not quite sure. No yellow flags just yet. As Mallard now going to try and shape up for a move on Jimmy Dwyer. And Jimmy now losing out to the Red Bull driver. Up to P15 goes Mallard. After not having the ideal qualifying, probably invalidating on his final run. Also, he missed Cookie retaking the lead there ahead of him. He dives, but Gordon almost in touching distance here. Very competitive top 4 it seems here. Very close to the top 4. Hemi still inside DRS range. Gordon, has he got the detection point? He hasn't. He's going to need to keep pushing for another lap. That's allowed Rio the opportunity to stay with him. But there's cars absolutely everywhere. Tricky to keep track of what everyone's doing. As Stephen Beecham was the first driver to come in. And Stephen now doing the 2-stop early it seems. As Hitman following along WOMX. It's been such a chaotic race here in Australia. I'm glad I've not been a part of it because there's been so much drama here as Hemi Dimes appears to be dropping back a bit from Cookie now. Has he lost DRS from the American as the Australian driver on his home Grand Prix wants an ideal win here? But did Cookie lose the rear there? I think he did. Does Hemi have the DRS open? He doesn't. Cookie just about got Hemi at the detection zone there, but made a big mistake there. And that's allowed Hemi back inside touching distance as Gordon still trying to find a way through. Meanwhile, AMS Apple here on lap 7 into P5. He's had a strong race despite the drama he's been involved with as Hitman going to get through on WOMX. Thori through on Jimmy Dwyer as well. And it's there's been so many moves made per lap. It's difficult to follow who's making a lap when. Is Rio Harris all over the rear of Gordon but unable to get ahead here. But Gordon now trying to cool his engine. Struggling here is Gordon here. As Rio on the rear of the Aston Martin driver. Meanwhile, we've got Jimmy Dwyer on the rear of Thori as well. Nicky as well. Still carrying that damage from early on. As Mallard tries to latch onto the rear of Liam. As Franz Hermann now in the tow of the Tier 2 champion last season. As Franz going up for a big late side. Pokes the rear of the Aston Martin driver. As Berlin picks up a 3-second time penalty. Not having his ideal debut here. As Rio now on the rear of Gordon. TJ picking up a 3-second time penalty. Rio looking on the inside of the chicane. Has to back out though. As we've got some moves here. Ollie gets ahead of Kevin Cal. Seth losing out to Hitman, as Hitman going to try and get DRS from Kevin Callis. Franz Hermann gets through on Ty Clear. And Franz now up into P11, but as mentioned, there's so many moves per lap. Who do we keep an eye on is the question. Gordon and Rio Harrison have dropped back from the lead, but Hemi still doing well to stay with Cookie. Could Hemi be one of the challengers this season? As Nicky and Thorey swap positions. Nicky also dropped behind Jimmy Dwyer there. Wonder was there a mistake or maybe contact involved? And wonder when Nicky's going to come in. Is he going to fix that front wing? As into turn 1, Hitman gets ahead of Kevin Cal. And Kevin Cal now can be under pressure from Seth in behind, as Womack's also looking for a move here. As Womack is having a look down the inside of Seth, but Seth going to keep him behind as Berlin now into the box on his first pit stop. But absolute drama here in the opening laps. We're here in lap 9, and finally it seems to have relaxed a bit, as Hemi still inside DRS range from Cookie, having a strong race is the Australian driver. But when is Cookie going to box? When's Hemi going to box? Both drivers appear to be looking for the 1-stop. Stephen Beecham committed early to the 2-stop, and we'll see if that's successful, as Thorey now through the middle sector gets ahead of Mallard. And Mallard going to try and get back at Thorey as Franz Hermann picks up a 3-second time penalty as he leads Ty Clear here in P11. But Gordon coming in early, going for the undercut. The hard tyres are very strong in Australia, so Gordon will be going to the end on those tyres. He's very, very surprised if he boxes again. I think it would be silly for him to box again. Meanwhile, AMS Apple now only 8 seconds off the lead on those hard tyres. AMS Apple, despite his tumultuous race, there still could be a good result on the cards, potentially even a podium, if not a battle for the win, if Hemi Dimes and Cookie hold each other up. They look to be working together as things stand. Just kind of DRS stringing each other along. It's allowed them to pull a gap to Rio Harris and Gordon, but as it gets closer to crunch time, as it gets closer to the pit stop window, they could end up fighting each other too hard, which could allow the likes of AMS Apple to get back into this battle. AMS Apple going a bit longer as both of them losing the rear out of turn 10. And Cookie just about holding on to it. Hemi just about holding on to it as well. I wonder, did either of them pick up any warnings there as Hitman gets through, and Ollie may have picked up a warning there on the inside of turn 10 as Gordon getting through on Liam. Gordon now has Ty Clear ahead of him. Some dirty air for Gordon. Is Ty going to allow his teammate through here? It looks like not too much of a fight put up as Cookie goes for the undercut on Hemi Dimes. Hemi Dimes going to stay out here to try and do the overcut on Cookie. We will see what happens here as time progresses. Where does Cookie exit the box? Is he held up here? Can Hemi Dimes make this strategy work for him? As we've also got Ollie into the box as well on the hards to the end. Where does Gordon emerge? As Cookie emerges just ahead of Womack. The Cyber driver had to check up with the Red Bull exit in the box just ahead of him. As Womack now on the rear of the Red Bull, trying to find a way through, but not close enough now. Maybe Cookie on the rear of Kevin Cal and Seth. But is this traffic potentially holding Cookie up? Could this allow an overcut option for Hemi Dimes? We will have to wait and see. Gordon also on the rear, Franz Hermann in behind. We'll have to keep an eye on all these battles as Cookie going to try and cut his way through. Already on the outside of his teammate last season, Kevin Cal. They won the Constructors' Championship together, but now there's no teammate play together. There's now Cookie on the outside of Seth, makes short work of the Williams driver. And Cookie now into P5. Has the undercut worked for the Red Bull driver? We'll have to see as the laps progress. As Gordon now did get ahead of Franz Hermann. He's now on the rear of the Sauber. But will this traffic hurt him at all as Rio Harris? Is he going to come into the box? No, Rio stays out. Hemi comes in. This could be crucial in the battle for the lead. The Ferrari driver exiting the box now. And where does he emerge with Cookie rounding the final corner? As Hemi now exiting the box, but Cookie's surely going to get ahead of him. Yes, he is. Hemi is a good margin behind, but now has a lap. As Hemi cuts the inside there, Gordon now around the outside of Hemi, and Gordon on the 2-lap older tyres gets ahead of Hemi Dimes. And could this hurt Hemi on his run as Cookie's got fresher tyres than Gordon and can help him build a gap here. Meanwhile, Hemi almost 4 seconds back from Cookie. That's how big the undercut is here in Australia. 4 seconds is the gap between Hemi and Cookie. And can Hemi make short work of Gordon to try and head after Cookie here? Meanwhile, Cookie on the outside of Hitman. Cookie into P3 as he crunches the wall. Hitman picks up a time penalty. Hemi Dimes now on the outside of Gordon. Gets through into turn 9. And Hemi now going to head down the road after Cookie. Does he have the pace to catch the 5-time champion though? That's a different question. Meanwhile, AMS Apple still staying out here. Rio Harris staying out a bit longer. He wants to go for a very long overcut. Maybe hoping for even a safety car as well. As Hemi now gonna try and catch Cookie until the end of the race. But does he have the greater pace here? We will see. Cookie sets the fastest lap now. And can Hemi Dimes answer on the next lap as he looks to set his sights after Hitman, who started the hard tyres and yet to box his Ty Clear, and Liam come into the box here. And meanwhile, we've got Seth on the rear. Stephen Beecham, a mistake from the Ferrari. As Seth now around the outside, going to get ahead of the Ferrari driver. Kevin Kell also involved here with the Ferrari driver, but Stephen keeps it ahead of the Haas driver. As Seth now on the outside of TJ. TJ done 12 laps on those hard tyres as Womax battling with Kevin Kell as Stephen Beecham goes deep there. And has that allowed Womax through up both of them? It has! Womax a triple move as he gets round the outside of TJ. Beautiful move there. Stephen loses out to Kevin Kell as well. And Stephen on this 2-stop really struggling here as Kevin now all over the rear of TJ trying to find a way through. As MS Apple now on the rear of Rio Harris as well. But we're going to head back down to Kevin Kell on the rear of TJ if he can try and get ahead on the Mercedes driver. But the Mercedes driver still has some DRS here to use as Liam gets ahead of Ty Clear as they're on the same strategy. I'm going to try and work together here as Kevin Kell now on the outside of TJ again. As TJ defending with all he can. Goes very deep though. And Kevin Kell straight through. And Stephen gets ahead of TJ. He's been struggling here in this race as MS Apple through into turn 3 into P1. MS Apple who's still yet to box as Cookie just 2 seconds down the road with Hitman now on the... Hitman now has Hemi Dimes on the rear. And Hemi gonna have to play this cautious. He doesn't want to get too close to the rear of the Alpine. As the Alpine still yet to box here. TJ picks up a time penalty as a big slide from Hitman allows Hemi Dimes round the outside. Is Gordon going to try and follow him through here? DRS enabled for Hemi Dimes. Is Gordon going to pick the outside of Hitman? And surely the Aston Martin's going to get this move done as they go side by side into the chicane. But Gordon breaks later and gets through on the Alpine driver. Still yet to box in this race. Meanwhile, Cookie has Rio Harris and AMS Apple in his sights as Ollie swaps with Mallard into P8. Mallard still has to do another pit stop in this race, you would think, along with Thori as well. Jimmy Dwyer also on a similar strategy. Rio Harris finally comes in. That allows Cookie freedom now to head after AMS Apple on differing strategies, though Apple is still yet to box in this one. A reminder, Hemi Dimes has the fresher hard tyres than Cookie, but hasn't been able to make any inroads dealing with that traffic. There's now no traffic for him to deal with, but how much battling will AMS Apple do in trying to hold up Cookie? I think Apple knows Cookie is where the battle is if he wants to win the race, and both of them here being cunning with how they use their battery. But Cookie now makes a big mistake as TJ retires in the pit lane, and Cookie now with DRS going to surely blow by AMS Apple now with DRS as well. Apple going to try and defend the inside as Cookie going to pick around the outside, and a comfortable move for the 5-time champion. And now into the lead of the race he goes as he's absolutely gapping Apple in behind on those older tyres. Apple just has no answer to the Red Bull driver, and Cookie now going to head down the road and disappear off into the distance and into the sunset he goes as Hemi Dimes now 5 seconds behind the lead. Has got to do something special. He does have the lap fresher hards, but you'd think potentially he should have boxed the same lap as Cookie, because now that he's out of DRS range from Cookie, Cookie just making absolute strides here as Cookie sets the fastest lap again here I don't know if anyone's going to beat that fastest lap for the remainder of the race. He had the slingshot of Apple's DRS as well to help that move happen, as Jimmy Dwyer and Womax swapping positions here. Maybe a mistake from Womax allowed that to happen, because Jimmy on the much older tyres as the Cybers battle over position, although Jimmy's just a reserve, so they're not actually teammates as Womax now, trying to find a way through. Yellow flag out, and that is Berlin around as Womax and Kevin Kell going to look through on turn 1 at Jimmy Dwyer. Side by side they go into turn 1, and Kevin gets through as Liam through on Stephen Beecham, as Berlin down in P19, not having the ideal debut is the Williams driver. Meanwhile, Seth on the rear of Mallard. And Seth in the Williams now going to look for a move on the Red Bull driver. Mallard still probably looking to box it. Hasn't boxed off those hards as of yet. Neither is Thorey in behind Seth. Surely you'd think it's going to be a comfortable move for the Williams driver. And the Irishman into P9 now. And Thorey even going to look to follow through. And a lovely move there from the McLaren as he caught Mallard unawares as Thorey now into P10. And what a race it has been for Thorey as Ty Clear gets through Stephen Beecham, his former rival from last season, his former teammate from last season, as Rio Harris going side by side with Franz Hermann. And Rio, and Franz off in the wall! And Franz, big contact into the wall from Franz Hermann. As Seth now into P8, but we'll have to see what the stewards say about that one. As Stephen will be promoted a couple of positions following all that drama in the previous lap. Mallard and Thorey in for mediums, as Franz Hermann going to have to get a new nose on that V-carb. As Hemi Dimes now has AMS Apple, and on the inside of the chicane, side by side they go, and Hemi picks up a 3-second time penalty. Has he potentially thrown away P2 here with that move? That could cost him massively here, the Ferrari driver. Now with a 3-second time penalty. A reminder, AMS Apple could still be in this battle as Berlin retires in the pit lane. The Dutchman not had the ideal race here today. Meanwhile, Gordon going to have to try and get through Apple as quickly as possible here. As Apple now coming into the pit lane here on lap 17. He's going to be on mediums to the end. What can Apple do on that reverse strategy? We will see, as we did see Kevin Kell get ahead of Womax, as Womax trying to warm those hard tyres. Maybe struggling for grip is the Cyber driver. But this has been one chaotic race. A lot of the stewards surely going to be busy, you'd think, as Rio now re-inherits P4, and Rio, one of his first races on no line. Although he has done a couple now that I remember. He did WR and stuff on no line, so it's not his first race, but he's still relatively new to no line. But I'm pretty sure he'd take a P4 as it stands. Meanwhile, Ollie in P5, very strong drive for him. He's up 12 positions, I believe. It's 14 actually, 14 positions. Meanwhile, AMS Apple up 10 as well. Strong drive for him as well. It has been a very topsy-turvy race as Apple now looking to get DRS from Ollie. Once he gets DRS from Ollie, he'll slingshot on the rear of Rio Harris, and then there's a 13-second gap to Gordon and Hemi. Can Apple get onto the podium here? We will see. But Hemi, with that 3-second time penalty, maybe could have been more patient and didn't risk that penalty there. And that may hand a P2 to Gordon, which Gordon will, I'm sure, will very much take in this race, as Kevin Kell and Hitman, Womax and Kevin Kell lose out to Hitman on the mediums. Now he's up in a P8. Very strong race for Hitman in his first race of the season. Hitman, I believe, has done a couple of races with us in the past. As AMS Apple now on the rear of Ollie. And Ollie not even going to try and fight this into turn 1. And Apple straight on through into P5. Next he sets his sights on the Mercedes of Rio Harris, who has still had a decent race despite him struggling on no line. But I'm sure he would have taken a top 5 if you'd have offered to him before the race. As Berlin leaves the session. A reminder for those of you who are new to WHF, points go down to P16, so only 2 drivers as it stands will be missing out in points. That is Jimmy Dwyer and Stephen Beecham, but both on fresh tyres, so they still can be able to catch up and make their strategies work Meanwhile, Gordon still hanging onto the rear of Hemi Dimes. Hemi's going to try and pull a gap to Gordon if he can to break that penalty threshold. Meanwhile, AMS Apple going to try and head down the road after Rio Harris and pull a gap before trying to catch up to the podium, but could it be too far back? AMS Apple's had such a strong race here, up 11 positions as things stand in P5, but as we progress on, it looks like Cookie has this race in the bag. The gap was 4 seconds as Hemi exited the pit lane, and now it's at 6 seconds. 2 seconds gained since the pit stops as AMS Apple sets the fastest lap of the race on his medium tyres. And will that lap time be beat? I would be not sure, as Franz Hermann now joins Mallard as they battle over the latter spots of the points. Mallard earlier was battling with Thori, but seems to have dropped back a bit. And now Franz Hermann on the rear of Mallard. And Franz now down into turn 1, brakes, and side by side with the Red Bull, almost forcing him off track. And Mallard now surely not happy with that move, as Franz just absolutely dive bombing Mallard and didn't leave the Red Bull driver a whole lot of room on the inside. Meanwhile, Kevin Kell and Womack still following each other along here. These two have been battling throughout the race and currently fighting over P9. As Gordon comes in, what is he doing? Gordon in, and he's thrown away a podium. Has Gordon worn his hards too much? He's onto the mediums now. But I don't think the two-stop was the right strategy, as Mallard gets back through again on Franz Hermann. And the Red Bull driver leaves the track, picks up a 3-second time penalty for good measure. That's going to hurt Mallard's race even more so. We'll see what penalties everyone's on. Mallard now on 6 seconds, but Gordon now, where does he exit? Actually, not too bad. He's down to P5. So can he catch up to Hemi Dimes before the end of the race? That is a big question. He's given himself a big task to do. He's also going to worry about getting ahead of AMS Apple. He'll get Rio on penalties as things stand. As Cookie picks up a 3-second time penalty. Now, a late safety car could bring big drama to this race. Cookie really did not need to risk the track limits here. As Nicky losing out to Thori, as Nicky looking on the inside of Thori, but too far back as Thori gets round the outside. As Seth and Hitman swap positions. Seth now down to P8, but yet to get any penalties is the Williams driver, so still could potentially gain on Hitman here. Excuse me, as AMS Apple now almost in touching distance from Rio Harris, but are they realistically catching the likes of Hemi Dimes? By enough here, we will see, as Kevin Kell gets out of Womax, and some drama here. Nicky picks up a time penalty, as Thori on the rear of Nicky, but I think Franz Hermann swapped with Mallard there as well. As these two battling over P16 or battling over P15 as things stand. Thori now on the rear of Nicky. Nicky, one of the longest hard runners out there so far. And can Thori find a way through on these fresher mediums? Also, Thori yet to get any time penalties, so that's helping the McLaren have a strong race here today. Oh, and around goes Franz Hermann, and thankfully goes things off, otherwise Mallard's race would have been done and dusted there. But Franz, unfortunately, not having the ideal debut here in WHF, down to P16, can still fight for some points here, but he's got to keep the likes of Jimmy Dwyer behind, and Stephen Beecham, as Stephen almost has Jimmy Dwyer in his sights. Meanwhile, AMS Apple now catching Rio Harris here. Although Rio, the 6 seconds of penalties, may already have this position lost. Meanwhile, Gordon, I was really questioning his two-stop strategy, and I still am, to be honest, as Womack swaps with Kevin Kell again here. But Rio, can he defend for long enough? We will see. I don't believe so. Apple now with DRS and on the fresher tyres as Thori around the outside of Nicky. Brave move around the outside of turn 9, but gets that move to stick as Stephen Beecham getting ahead of Jimmy Dwyer, as Stephen now up into P17, going to try and get inside the penalty threshold of Mallard, as Hitman getting ahead of Ollie now. Hitman having a strong race up to P6, as Apple now surely going to try and get a good run down the back straight to get ahead of Rio Harris. And then he's someone going to catch 10 seconds to Hemi Dimes. It's going to be a bit of a stretch to ask him. Meanwhile, Gordon got to do the same sort of job as well on those fresh mediums. I don't think Gordon made the right call by doing the 2-stop at Apple now. Into P3 in the podium. Apple starting way down the order. Didn't have the ideal qualifying. He was either P15 or 16, I believe, in qualifying, and now up to P3. What a race it has been as Mallard gets ahead of Nicky. And Nicky had to do a much longer strategy, plus the damage he had early on. Nicky down to P15. And just going to try and hopefully stay with Mallard as best he can to try and get some points here on his debut along with Franz Herrmann. As Stephen looking to catch Franz Herrmann as well to try and battle for those final points, as Rio Harris still sticking with AMS Apple now. AMS Apple needs to catch around 6 seconds, maybe a little bit more, 6 cents, as Rio Harris now has lost another time penalty, and that's essentially handed Gordon a comfortable P4. But I'm sure Gordon wants P2, that's why he pitted, unless he was really struggling with tyre wear. I'm not quite sure why Gordon did what he did. The 2-stop just didn't appear to be the quick strategy today. It seemed like the 1-stop was the way to go. Meanwhile, a reminder, a late safety car could really throw a spanner in the works here. AMS Apple kept his nose clean along with Gordon. Ollie, Seth, Womax, Kevin Kell, Liam, Ty Clare and Thorey, as well as Stephen Beecham, all have kept their nose clean today, and a late safety car could really swing things in their favour. But we've had a couple of incidents today, but no safety car, surprisingly enough, as Nicky and Mallard battle side by side through turn 3. Mallard losing the rears. Nicky hops the outside curb and Mallard gets through. But Nicky going to try and get back through again now with DRS down the back straight here as Nicky battling possibly too hard, because all this battling is inviting Franz Herrmann back into the battle as they battle over the ladder points. As Zampa says TV. I don't know why he says TV, but either way, Nicky round the outside of Mallard, and Nicky having a decent race on debut. Despite getting damage early on, still on for some points here is Nicky. Meanwhile, Seth on the rear of Ollie now and down into turn 1. Seth gets ahead of the McLaren, and Seth having a very good debut as well, trying to stay with Hitman to hopefully get a P6 as well. Hitman carrying that time penalty as well. I wonder, is Rio even at risk from dropping back behind the likes of Seth and Ollie as well? As Zampa says, where's the GFX? What? Oh yeah. There they are. I honestly forgot I had them on. Zampa, apologies about that. But they're now on for the last number of laps. But Rio now on the rear of Apple, still holding on to the rear of Apple as he is. Mallard, oh, Franz Herrmann involved, oh! Oh, big contact there. Franz Herrmann involved along with Nicky, and more damage for the Alpine driver. And things have just gone from bad to worse for Nicky here. Franz Herrmann going through what seemed to be no gap at all in that 3-wide moment. And Franz now up into P14. Big damage as Nicky on the inside of the Alpine. A big contact there. And Nicky around and surely out of the points now is Nicky. As Stephen Beecham going to get ahead of the Alpine driver. And Nicky unfortunately has been in the wars today, as Franz Herrmann been involved in a lot of contact here today. Sure, the stewards will be busy after the race, as many drivers involved in drama here. As Ollie now on the rear of Seth. Ollie going to try and pick his moment to get ahead of the Williams driver. Seth overtook him around 2 laps ago, as Rio now has lost DRS from AMS Apple. It's allowed Gordon onto the rear of the Mercedes driver. And can Gordon now get ahead of the Mercedes? Surprised he didn't dump the battery there into turn 11. But Gordon being a bit more cautious with this move. But a reminder, Gordon was in the battle for P2. Hemi's penalty wouldn't have helped him as Gordon washes out wide, potentially picking up a warning himself there as Nicky into the box for soft tyres. Maybe Nicky can go for the fastest lap here, but if not, it's not been the ideal race for Nicky at all here. as Gordon on the rear. Oh, big mistake there from Womack. Massive mistake here on lap 26, and into the wall goes the Sauber driver, losing the rear here. And he's going to stay out to try and manage those hards to the end, but really struggling is the Sauber driver, as Gordon now all over the rear of Rio Harris, and surely going to get comfortably by the Mercedes driver. He's going to try and head after AMS Apple, who's still on the charge to try and catch Hemi Dimes before the end here. Gordon now on the rear of Rio Harris. Round the outside he goes again on the Mercedes driver. And Gordon up into P4, as he's going to try and head after AMS Apple, who's 3 seconds up the road, as Rio picks up another time penalty, potentially handing a position to Seth, and maybe even Ollie as well. Rio having a strong race on his first race here in WHF, as doing no line, but those penalties have racked up for Rio, and he's going to drop down the order, potentially all the way to P8. So Rio unhappy with the amount of penalties he's picked up here, as Mallard picks up another time penalty. That could put him at risk to dropping behind Stephen Beecham, and I think it has, as Stephen now may pick up his first Tier 1 points here, as Mallard back down the inside of Franz Herman, as they go side by side here. Franz round the outside keeps it ahead, as we didn't get the best of camera angles to see what even happened there. But Franz still ahead of F1 Mallard, as these two have been battling ferociously for quite some laps here, as we started the penultimate lap of the race, as AMS Apple still trying to catch Hemi Dimes. Hemi only has 3 seconds of penalties though, so Apple's going to have to do something special here. Gordon as well trying to catch AMS Apple here before the end of the race, both battling over the last position in the podium, as Mallard here still following along Franz Herman, although Mallard with that extra time penalty, it's going to cost the Red Bull here. But could Herman pick up some penalties by the stewards as well, which could give Mallard a free position here as well. Meanwhile, Womack picks up a time penalty, still dealing with that damage, which could allow Thori potentially to catch the Sauber driver by the end here. Meanwhile, Gordon still trying to catch AMS Apple. Apple trying to catch Hemi Dimes as we've started the final lap of the race. And Cookie appears to have this all but won, just needs to avoid a puncture, which the hards are pretty strong in Australia, so I don't think he's at risk from that at the moment. As Mallard on the inside of Herman, and may get through at the chicane here. Side by side they go, and Mallard does get through, as Hitman picks up another time penalty. That may drop him behind Seth here, as Hitman having a strong race now, but may drop down a bit, as Gordon now still trying to catch Apple, but is he too far behind? I believe so. Don't think Gordon made the right move by boxing onto the mediums. You still get P4, but he did have P2 on the cards, as Franz Herman now on the rear of Mallard. And into the wall goes Franz Herman and around. Surprised to not see him DNF there, but that could be Franz Herman potentially dropping out of the points here, as the V-Carb now may be at risk at losing out to Jamie Dwyer. Stephen will get him because of the penalties anyway. We've got Cookie rounding the final corner, and Cookie up to the line, wins the season opener in Australia here in Tier 1. Meanwhile, Hemi Dimes in his home Grand Prix finishes P2 for Ferrari, a massively strong race for the Ferrari driver. Meanwhile, AMS Apple on debut gets a podium here, ahead of Gordon. Next it's Rio Harris, although Rio may drop down the order potentially with all the penalties with all his penalties, but I think Hitman actually may be too far behind. We'll have to wait and see, as yeah, that is right. Will Seth jump anyone here as well? Seth up to the line, gets ahead of Hitman, and Ollie now next across the line gets ahead of Hitman as well, as Hitman has left the session and it's destroyed his Delta. But Kevin now into P9, Liam into P10. Next it's Ty Clear into P11. Womack will finish P12. Mallard in P14, I believe, because Hitman's still going to finish where he did. Meanwhile, Jimmy Dwyer still trying to get onto the rear of Franz Herman to pick up the latter stages of the points. Not quite sure what the... Stephen Beecham now, it's a drag race to the line between him and Thori just about stays ahead and will keep P13, does Thori, as Jimmy Dwyer crosses the line. Does he finish ahead of Franz? He does not. And there you have it. Jimmy Dwyer unfortunately missing out in points today, unless France gets a penalty by the stewards. But a fantastic race to watch there. Brilliant season opener here. Cookie picks up where he left off as the Tier 1 champion last season, and he wins in Australia. Meanwhile, Hemi Dimes in his home Grand Prix finishes P2. And next, it was AMS Apple on debut into P3, as Rioja says, love dealing with the brake pedal issue. And AMS Apple, despite not having the best of qualifyings, plus hit a power cut before the race, still had a very strong race, and AMS Apple will definitely be a contender here as he gets driver of the day, most overtakes and fastest lap, as we'll try and get all the results in, because I believe our results system is bugged. And thankfully got all the race director in, so hopefully that should help. But Gordon in P4. Rio Harris does keep P5 on his first WHF race on no line, followed by Seth and Ollie. But absolute brilliant way to start the season, as we'll try and get all the podium sitters into the party if we can.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
You're absolutely right. And Rio says, can you join? Sure, Rio, yeah. But we'll wait for some people to join the race. Rio, your first WHF race on no line. How'd that one go for you? We did see you pick up a heap of penalties, but still a decent race nonetheless.
Well, first stint was okay. I think I went the longest out of anyone on the mediums. Tyre wear was actually quite under control. I don't think I went above 80%, which was good, but I had the brake pedal issue, so I couldn't go higher than 75% brake force, so yeah. I mean, you don't really need it a lot, but for like the likes of turn 1 and I think it's turn 6, not fun at all. I got a triple warning twice, but I forgot to get race director.
I got it on the stream anyway, so you should be able to use that.
I don't understand it. I have the freshest hard, I'm flat out pushing, and I'm barely gaining.
Yeah, we did see the undercut had a massive impact, especially on Hemi Dimes, who on his home Grand Prix was having such a strong race keeping up with Cookie, but that undercut cost Hemi Dimes so much time. Hemi, how did that race go for you?
I'm amidst getting changed to, get ready for school, but it was I was happy with my pace. Rio will probably be able to tell you, when I came up to Apple on my hard stint and I got the penalty, I was furious. I lost my head at that point, but I managed to keep some pace the first start, and then, as Cookie said, I should have boxed, but in theory, at the end, I was like 80% because I was pushing every lap.
Yeah, well, Cookie's just
I'm happy to know that I was able to actually overtake Cookie at least once this season. So.
Yeah. Well, great race from you, Hemi. Great start to the season. You get P2, and also you can frame that overtake on your wall. But we will move.
I will make sure of it.
We will move on to Cookie, the man of the hour, the 5-time champion here in WHF. Another dominant victory for you, Cookie. How'd that race go for you?
We can hear me.
Yep.
Okay. It was solid. I feel like the first stint was pretty ass. I don't know. I was everywhere. I think I don't know how to pronounce her name. Hemi Dimes, whatever. I think
Yep.
he could tell you that. I was kind of half spinning. Mediums were pretty ass, and then I decided to pit a little early just because maybe weather would hit, and I wanted to have enough laps on fresh tires. I pit, and the undercut around here is like forgive my language, like retarded. It's like it's like 3 seconds if you ERS dump. So I figured I would just do that. And if he followed me, he followed me. If he didn't, he didn't. Because I knew if I broke DRS and didn't, bottle, I could stay out of DRS probably. I think I had a little bit of a pace delta on him. So I came out. I don't know if you saw, I ERS dumped a bunch of cars on my outlap and got some clear air and just kind of coasted from there. I saved my tires a lot. I think I was only at like 76 or something, 77 at the end, because I was just saving. But yeah, it was a good one. It was fun. I liked this track.
Yeah, we did see in that first stint him, he was able to keep up. We did see that big moment at a turn 6. He had a massive half spin where he almost touched the wall. Because you almost broke DRS there from him, but that helped him stay with you. But it really was, that undercut was so powerful and really helped you get the win there. We head next time out to Japan. Cookie, is that one of your favorite tracks?
No, it's a bad track on pad. So we'll see how it goes. I think Hemi's on wheel. I think Apple's on wheel. So we'll see. That's one of those dud tracks along with Jeddah that are kind of hard to compete, but I think I can still be top 3, top 2. We shall.
Flying, you're gonna win.
We shall see. I've never won Japan actually on this game, so we'll see. But it was fun. That was enjoyable. I loved hitting like 350 kph down the back straight, like ERS dumping people. I'm glad I got some good fighting with Hemi. His pace like surprised me in the first stint. I was trying to brake, but I couldn't, as you saw. I almost killed myself doing it, but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, a very fun race to watch, I must say. That was absolutely chaotic in the opening and some great battles throughout. But if that is it,
Verstappen me into turn 1.
who Max Verstappen you?
Cookie. He swept all the way he swept all the way to the right into turn 1 for the
Well, hoping we see some more of that as the races progress, because that was a great race to watch and commentate on. Next time out in Tier 1 heads to Japan, where I actually have a race win, so...
I also do have a race win there.
a rare
My
arrow...
first ever win.
Yeah, a rare arrow stat for everyone. As... well, we will try and find someone to raid on our way out, but thank you all for watching. If you have enjoyed, I have been WHF Arrow, and if you haven't followed yet, please do. We'll try and find someone to raid who is doing some F1. Let's see here.
See you guys, Garis. Bye.
Bye, Cookie. Let us raid.
Right. I'm off to go
Pascal.
get educated.
Alright, have a good one. We're going to raid Pascal on our way out, who's currently doing a race with a couple of drivers I know. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.